The episode after Pac died where Puffy and Snoop they was on the Steve Harvey show. Do you record that episode?
It was after Pac got shot and killed, and they were having. There was a lot of discourse between hip hop artists from the East Coast and the West Coast. Like there was just a lot of. I remember like at the BET Awards and the Soul Train Award. I mean, I want to say like all these award shows, things were escalating. They were getting worse and worse. People were getting the violence and the rhetoric was getting like pretty serious and intense, and starting to spill over from the streets to the sound studios, and it's just bad news. And I don't know why or how it happened because nobody asked me, but they wrote this episode, and I think Steven said probably had a lot to do with this. They put this episode together where they brought, basically at the time the head of the New York hip hop scene, which was Puffy at the time, and then Snoop was kind of the represent. I mean, no one was gonna. I don't know where Suge was at the time, but I don't know if he was invited on the show or not. Um, but uh, but Snoop was there and Puffy was there, and the whole show was about, um, kind of like the West Coast was and the East Coast meet in Chicago, kind of like, in the middle of the country, and then they were gonna talk it up and try to stop all of the not, stop, and then of course Biggie got shot like not soon after, but so I think it had a positive effect, but it didn't stop the beef from, it didn't really stop until after Biggie passed, and then people were like, we're losing the greats.
Yeah, I think that episode was an attempt to try to end the beef between the East and the West.
And they did an okay job of it, but it didn't help. It didn't help. It didn't help Biggie. I know when Biggie died, it was like I don't know anybody anywhere that thought that was a good idea.
When Big got killed, what was your reaction and what was Merlin's reaction? Both of y'all being from New York and y'all living in LA at this time. Like, how was that like for y'all?
Um, well, it didn't. That happened in Las Vegas, so that was more of a Vegas thing. The Biggie thing was more of an LA thing. And so when Biggie died, that was a major thing. I mean, that was major. I mean, you know, but the word on the street is that was an entangled situation. I mean, that's a story. That Biggie story is a story. That's a story. I mean, they tried to make the movie with Johnny Depp. I read that whole. I versed myself on that whole scene, and that was a wild time, man. That was a wild time. Yeah, Merlin wanted to go to war with everybody. Merlin was pissed. He escalated his violence. He wanted to get angry with everybody when Biggie got shot. But that was just Merlin. Merlin was an angry dude.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, because he was from New York, so
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. And he wasn't having it. Like he wasn't, that's another thing that got Merlin in trouble. He thought that, and this is a real serious, this. You can't think that you can't think that the gang situation can't affect your life if you get yourself entangled in it. Like if you think you can live your life a certain way and then you can operate over here and do this and that and think it's not going to spill into your life, you've lost your mind.
gotta ask you, with all the guests y'all had a lot of people that came on that show. Anybody stand out? You got any stories?
Most of the guests we had were great. I mean, I remember a couple of the guests, like Gabrielle Union. She came on. She became a pretty big star. You could tell who was. You could tell the guest stars that were special, like that were shining out, that were gonna like go places. They popped off the screen. There was a commercial actor that played the role of Byron, and that guy was so talented. He used to just I think he went on to do like just tons of commercials, but he also was on some other shows too. But the dude's comic timing was just, he was so good. And the guys that worked with the guys that were in Steve's band, Jonathan Slocum. He's hilarious, that guy. And uh, that was T-Bone. I can't remember his last name, but he was amazing. And then Ron Isley, who just passed, God rest his soul. But Ron Isley was one of the. He could never. He didn't make an attempt to learn any of his lines. He would just get up there, and Steve would say, "Hey, Ron, just say whatever you want," and Ron would go. That's what I was planning on doing, Steve. Ron, just do whatever you want. You couldn't tell Ron Isley what to do.
Why did the show end? Out of curiosity.
We just ran our course. We ran our contract out. Yeah. And we were in high school. When Merlin and I were, I was 30. I was 30 years old playing a high school senior. I was like, we were done with high school. We were done. Yeah. Yeah, they should have spun that shit off is what they should have done. Well, I mean, there were two fans there were two schools of fandom for the show. There were the people that liked Steve and Sid and Wendy and Terry, and then there was the people that liked me and Merlin and I, or me and Merlin, and yeah. So I mean, the show had had younger fans and older fans. It was cool like that. Keenan and Kel, they were two of the. I mean, they were guest stars and they were just amazing. I mean, every time they showed up, Merlin was like, "God damn it!" It's like, "Will, we can't let these kids take the show from us this week." I was like, "Why not? They're hilarious. Let them do it, and we'll just kick it." He was too competitive.
When y'all was shooting the Steve Harvey show, what are some of the other shows that was shooting on y'all like?
Yeah, a lot. Bishop Don, probably my favorite story about people coming to watch the show was Bishop Don Juan coming to watch us. Yeah, he would we would pre-tape the show on Wednesday so that we had the whole show in the bag. We didn't really have to worry about the live audience. And then we would film on Thursday night in front of the live audience. But we had everything locked down, so the live audience was just sort of to get the live studio audience reactions and just maybe get a couple. Sometimes when we did it in front of the live audience, the comedy, the beats would be a little sharper, the jokes would pop a little faster. But on Wednesdays, Bishop Don would come and sit in the audience by himself and watch the show. And nobody told him not to, and I don't know if anybody invited him. That was none of my business. But to see that man dressed in his entire green suit with the chains and the goblet, and he had his green Rolls Royce parked outside. It was the greatest thing ever, dude. I've never seen anything like it. It was like the Drew Carey show. That show was filming right next to us. I do remember they were filming The Grinch with Jim Carrey when they were filming that movie for like a year and a half when we were on the lot. So we saw those guys all the time. You'd see Jim Carrey walking around in the Grinch outfit like every day, which was pretty cool.